if you're an entrepreneur or you're an investor, you have to have a 10-year time horizon. And nothing great is accomplished without a decade. If you look at Microsoft, the company's founded in the mid 70s, a decade later in their mid 80s, if you're not willing to hold Microsoft stock for a decade, you probably didn't get to the point where they came public. So a decade's a short period of time for someone who's an industrialist or an investor. I mean, Warren Buffett still owns Coca-Cola stock, and he must have bought it 50 years ago, right? So I think that anybody that's a billionaire, right? All of these names, the Sergey Brins, the Mark Zuckerbergs, the Jeff Bezos, the Elon Musks of the world, they didn't get there without holding an asset that had technical potential for a decade or longer. There's no get rich quick scheme. So I think that people want an easy route. If you're trying to get a quick win with no volatility, with no risk, doesn't make sense. And if you're actually trying to be successful in a hurry with volatility, that probably still won't work either. I mean, ultimately, success comes from taking a decade-long view, right? Andrew Mellon, John D. Rockefeller, Jeff Bezos, right? We forget, like, Tesla was founded 20 years ago. People think it's an overnight success, but it's not an overnight success. And with regard to the macro picture, we live in a time of unprecedented public intervention in the affairs of the economy, right? Unprecedented. We never in the history of the country did you have a government that told you couldn't have Thanksgiving dinner with your family because they didn't want family members to sit too close to each other. Yeah. We arrested a dude on a surfboard in the middle of the Pacific Ocean for basically paddle boarding in the middle of the Pacific because that was deemed as unsafe, right? That kind of stuff. So we have an unprecedented amount of encroachment. We have politicians overriding the free market. They tell you what kind of energy you can use. They tell you, how far you have to sit from someone. They tell you whether it's safe to be sitting in your office at a table next to someone. Lots and lots of encroachment. Each of these areas, right? War is the suppression of the free market to the benefit of the public or the public organization, right? The government is suppressing the free market. So if the government keeps suppressing the free market everywhere, what you do is you cripple production, right? Yeah, that's what we have tariffs on Chinese imports, right? That the drive up prices up or down, drives them up, right? You have a war or a labor war, right? If everybody unionizes and if everybody's afraid to go to work and if everybody thinks that their life is threatened to stand next to another human being, right? And if we're afraid to trade with each other, and if we're afraid to talk with each other, right? If you have capital controls, wage controls, price controls, export controls, manufacturing controls, right? As those things happen, they have a chilling effect on the economy. So what we have right now is, on one hand, you have a supply side problem, right? We're not producing as much. The degree of not producing, by the way, is misunderstood. The currency weakened by 20% in the year after COVID. If the economy measured in nominal terms is flat, that meant that the overall economic output decreased by 20%. The overall economic output decreased by 20% or more in the last 2 years. People wonder if we're in a recession. We've been in recession since March of 2020. But what we have is a situation where all the metrics are distorted, right? For example, how many people would measure the economy based upon GDP output measured in dollars? Most. Is that the correct measure? No, right? Because the dollar's not worth what it was 24 months ago, right?